there's a good chance you're not backing yourself enough. The way I see this manifest in a lot of people's lives, myself included, is when self-doubt starts to creep in when you're making a decision. And the decision may be a small one. It may be a big one, like changing career, starting a business, working with a coach or consultant. And when the doubt starts to creep in, this inner dialogue makes itself known and all these stories start to come out to the surface. And it's really important that we clear the noise and focus on the signal. And I've found the best way that has served me in my life to be able to do that has been to lean into backing myself. Because typically the doubt that creeps in these moments is usually along the lines of, this may be a mistake. There's some kind of a mistake associated with this. And when I make the decision to back myself, what I find is that eases the concern that it's a mistake. And here's why. If you're struggling to back yourself, if you feel like you don't have what it takes to make the most of the situation, then there's a good chance that whatever the thing is, whatever the decision may be, that is not going to work out in your favor, that it's going to be a mistake and it's going to be something that you experience shame or regret around. But if you know and if you believe in your ability to make the most of any kind of circumstance that you face, and that's what I'm describing as backing yourself, then it's hard to experience doubt about the opportunity because you know no matter what happens off the back of the decision you've just made, you will find a way to make the most of it. For example, if it's a job and you've decided to quit this job and go and apply for another one, and the doubt creeps in, like, what the hell have I just done? Like, why am I making this decision? It's because you're not backing yourself that you will make the most of that opportunity, however it goes. Because the truth is, we don't know. There's no way for us to predict what's actually going to happen. We like to think we can, but the truth is we can't. And there's no use in ruminating over some future possibilities because truly they're endless. There's an unlimited amount of possibilities. So the best thing you can do is make a decision, step forward with it, and make the most of it. So if the job doesn't work out, that's fine because you know that you're going to learn from that experience and say, okay, well, this workspace isn't the best place for me, or this company, or this particular role. And so what will you do? Will you just tap out and say, well, that didn't work out, I'm out, I'm done? No. You'll find another job. You'll try that job. And again, the doubt will creep in. How do I know that I've made the right decision here? You don't, but you're going to find out. And for every time you take that step, sure, it kind of feels like you'll be making a few job applications and you'll have to go through the process a few times and finding a few jobs. But ultimately, if it's going to take you going through 7 different job positions to eventually find the one that you love, that you're most aligned with, that gives you the greatest opportunity for growth, I would argue the previous 6 that you applied for before you landed on the 7th were all worth it because you learned something. This industry isn't for me. This particular role isn't for me. These kinds of companies are not for me. This size of company is not for me. Whatever happens, however it unfolds, it's up to you to decide what the lesson is and what the gift is from the experience. I know this sounds really basic, but God, it's saved me so much in terms of mental rumination and self-doubt and self-deprecation because the moment I decide I'm going to make the most of it however it unfolds, I liberate myself of the pressure that I have to get 100% of my decisions 100% accurate. And this is something I'm navigating to this very day. I've been dealing with this over the last several weeks that I'm working through. A number of various decisions that I've got to face, that I've faced. And I've realized that the moment that I've started to come up against those decisions, that self-doubt creeps in and says, but is that the right decision? And immediately, because I've got this tool that I lean on, I make the choice. I'm going to back myself into it. I'm going to go for it. And I'll find the value and the gift from it no matter what. Now, it's not recklessness. I'm not being reckless. I'm not throwing everything on the line. But it still feels like big stakes. It still feels like there's opportunity to fail, for humiliation, for embarrassment, for letting people down. But I know that I'll make the most of it. And so it's not lost. So my preference for you is when you start to experience all those stories that come up, is to back yourself. Control the controllables. The one thing you can control is you. Can you control the outcome? No. Can you control exactly what happens? Definitely not. You certainly can't control the future. But you can control yourself. And you can control the way you think. And you can control whether or not you extract values and gifts from life's experiences, no matter what they are. So control that. Surrender to the rest. Give yourself a break. You don't have to get this right. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, come to think of it, if I'm to do a quick scan of my life, I don't think I've ever made a perfect decision. And that's kind of the point. No decision is perfect. Or rather, the perfect decision is the one that you make. So make the decision and back yourself. Find a way through it and trust that you will find the most valuable line, most valuable lane through the experience. Maybe not initially. It might take a few iterations, a few lessons, a few bumps, a few dead ends. But if you're persisting with something you genuinely care about, you've got nothing to worry about. It's just a question of how long it will take for you to get there. And if you've got the patience and you keep at it and you keep backing yourself, you'll get there. Through the lens of entrepreneurship, we see this with plenty of entrepreneurs who have had big successes, but it wasn't their first business and it wasn't their first opportunity. It may have been business number 3, or in some cases in the double digits before things actually really started to take off for them. Or they had several careers and then they started a business and the careers were successful and then the business failed. And then they had to try a few businesses, a few other opportunities and meet the right people before they landed on an opportunity that proved to be scalable and profitable. There are countless stories out there. There are so many stories out there. If you just do reading on entrepreneurship, you will find story after story. How many cases there have been where that's been true. And the same is true with relationships. It is rare. It's not uncommon, but it's rare that the first person you end up in a relationship with, which is usually in your teen years, is the person that you spend the rest of your life with as a companion. Now, I know they exist. I know that's real for a lot of people, but that's rare. For most people, it requires going on dates and being in several different relationships until they find somebody that they genuinely believe can be a lifelong companion. And even in those cases, the divorce rate is somewhere around 50% in the Western world. So they think they've found a partner and a companion for life, but then at some point during however long they're together, they decide and they agree that they're actually not suitable to be together. And that's okay too. So it requires refinement. It requires the process of trusting that you will find your way as long as you stick with it. As long as you hold this North Star that I will extract value, I will extract a gift. I can't tell you how much that saves me. And I know I'm repeating myself here, but I feel like it's really important. So back yourself, trust yourself, because anyone that's ever achieved anything that they care about, I'm not talking about global accolades. I'm just talking about the internal measure that you have of your life and what you count as important. Anybody that's achieved anything that they genuinely care about has backed themselves. And when things got really tough and they were experiencing the most amount of doubt, these were moments that they chose to back themselves. Even if they felt like they didn't have genuine reason to, they just chose to, because that's all they had. That was the only thing they could control. And I'll say this one last thing too, about the self-doubt that comes up. All the stories that you hear when you're making big decisions are all the stories that were keeping you within your comfort zone. So if you think about your comfort zone as like the perimeter of a farm that you might live on with acres. And as you reach the perimeter of the farm, all the voices and all the stories that were trying to keep you in the boundaries of that farm make themselves known, because they're trying to talk you away from the edge of the farm. They're trying to talk you away from the fence to go back well within the perimeter of the farm. But you're saying, no, I see life beyond the fences. I see life beyond these confinements that have been created. And so I'd like to step out beyond that into the horizon. And all the stories that were keeping you there were like, yeah, but no. And they're telling you why you should stay there, why you're not capable, what pain you will experience out there. And so it's up to you. Again, this is why backing yourself and learning to trust yourself is really important. It's because it's up to you to decide, I'm going to proceed beyond the fence line in spite of these stories. And you'll find that as you cross the threshold and you step past the fence, the stories don't necessarily follow you. They just stay where the fence is. And the further that you walk beyond the edges of the fence, the quieter those voices become, because they have less weight as you continue to prove them wrong. So we don't necessarily want to eliminate these stories, but we want to understand what they're there for. They are the stories that keep us safe, keep us well within the familiar. But if you're someone that's listening to this, there's a good chance that you're not interested in a life where everything stays familiar, safe, and small. So back yourself and trust yourself. Step over that fence line and keep going. And I promise you, the things that you will experience, yes, they will be challenging. Yes, you will face adversity. But that doesn't mean you can't handle it, because life doesn't give you anything you can't handle. So when you face it, back yourself, trust yourself, and know that there is a wonderful lesson and there is value to be extracted. I promise you, you'll go and experience and achieve some really cool things in your life. That's it from me. Those are my thoughts on backing yourself. Those are my thoughts on dealing with self-doubt as you expand. Please utilize the trust that you have for yourself. And if you don't have it, start building it. And I look forward to hearing about the really cool things that you go and achieve because you've done that. That's it from me. I'm Giorgio Genaus. I'll see you next time.